Yeah, the original Carpet Workers Social Club at Gilt Edge Carpets in the town that my mum and dad worked at uh, was in fact pretty sparse uh, in comparison with the subsequent one, which sort of reflected the time, what was going on at the time. You know, like I say, the it could have been the first live news event that I recall. I think it may have been the late 70s. The storming of the Iranian embassy, when Iran was run by what was, an ally of the West. Let's put it that way. So yeah, it had a TV. I seem to recall the social club, the original social club, having a projector. But anyway, but I really did like it. You know, sitting in these big windows, and it sort of reminds me of the FIFA 1978 World Cup and the 1974 World Cup that I've got vague recollections of. Stronger recollections of the 1978 FIFA World Cup final. And the interesting part for me isn't the football. It's from a media ecology perspective. And that is that the what had be talked about the compression of time and space brought about by postmodern influences, for example, I think. But then, you know, the audio visuals of the 74, 78 World Cup finals and subsequent finals would have, you know, there would be an audio visual cue that this was from a previous, that this was a different world sort of thing. There was this air of mystique about it that sort of went with the period, and that was across the media and other areas of life. There was this sense of mystique that came with, that type of thing. Interesting stuff. Looking back, I've thought about this quite a while ago. How the audio visual impact of live coverage from around the world would have these cues that gave a sense of distance and mystique and so on. And I think, from recollection, that there were all often issues with the coordination of audio and video. There would sometimes be a discrepancy in the simultaneity of the two. So yeah, there was that sense that sort of, in later times, sort of does hone your antennae for picking up on such stuff. But yeah, the media in the 70s and 80s, I don't bloody know. And then they said, we're going to put on Superman. And there's this fat little fellow who's apparently 6'1". He's fat and little according to our what we saw. But yeah, and sort of, there would be, for us kids, there'd been you know, there was the early children's TV, but that would then develop from comics, where there were depictions of school life, to TV representation. There was this program, I think it was the first of its kind, called Grange Hill, by this guy called, you know, this TV producer. It was quite innovative, had amazing eyebrows, called Phil Redmond, who came from a part of the country that was considered left wing, and so he had, you could say, a Keynesian sort of social conscience, which sort of may have sort of had pros and cons to the programme. You know, it was sitting in a city, dealt with social issues, was entertaining at times, but not as entertaining as a subsequent series that was based on literature called The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. Now, that had been a book that was adapted for TV, and it wasn't as ideologically, its ideology wasn't as overt as Grange Hill's, Phil Redmond's programme. But it really captured the atmosphere of the time, the postmodern sense. You know, the cynical attitude of Generation X during its teenage years that could become evident. And was more entertaining, which again fits in with the move away from media that was considered more serious to media that was considered more entertainment. But it was quite a funny series. And like I say, Grange Hill, I was interested in that. I found that quite amusing at times, but it was a bit too. Well, at the time, I thought, you know, we just watch these things, and without realising it, absorbed what they were saying. You know, like I say, Grange Hill, more about, so, well, I don't know, you could still say The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole was dealt with social issues, but more from a cultural perspective rather than a political one, which Grange Hill was, sort of thing. But yeah, like I say, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole was more literary than Grange Hill. Grange Hill was grounded more in TV, maybe theatre in a way, tapping into that stuff, into the type of stuff Marshall McLuhan says. But yeah, you know, in subsequent years, I'd watch. I remember American football, as they call it. It's this sport I really don't understand, being broadcast from the United States, in, you know, it could have been down the road. Such was the quality of the audio visuals. So sort of now, it's sort of that sense of time, space, place has sort of become obscured, which I think was quite good to have, for me personally anyway. But yeah, like I said before, I got into Dickens, maybe media that was more I don't know, grounded in the political stuff. and the more entertaining stuff was quite good. Because last night I looked up stuff about. I looked up about Jonathan Miller, who was called a polymath. I think he was the only popular polymath of the 20th century in any serious sense. Who'd be all, form and content were sort of locked in together. But as time's gone on, I think those that joining together forming of the relationship between form and content has become more flexible over time, and some quite serious arguments can be put entertainingly, and some quite entertaining arguments can be put more. Some quite serious arguments can be put in an entertaining way. Some quite entertaining arguments can be put in a serious way, and I suppose it's all good for honing your critical sense, which sort of like I mentioned about the web and what's going on around it. It's sort of critical thinking, as they call it, the bones. The meat. I don't know what I'm trying to say. The meat is critical thinking, the basic stuff, the basics, but then a theoretical underpinning of and sense, overarching sense, even though that conflicts, with some theories. It's good to have a theoretical sense as much as it is to have the basics of critical thinking, which I suppose you develop over time as you move away from your teenage years, your 20s, your 30s and so on. It's about your 20s, I think, that you start to develop a theoretical sense. More so. Maybe many people do at a younger age, because like a lot of people, I went into post-school education a bit later than a lot of people. So maybe quite a lot of people do develop a theoretical sense. But yeah, looking back to those media and seeing them in a quite interesting way. Like I said, post school, I did get into Dickens. Dostoevsky wrote a great thriller, where the relationships and the depiction of those relationships, whether that was the society he was from back then, or his artistic sensibility, or whatever you want to call it, the popular notion of artists being these troubled figures and all the rest of it. Maybe he had that about him, as was evident in the way he approached relationships in the books I read about him. I mean, one thing I do remember, the most salient thing I remember about his books, looking back, was something that really did at the time have an impact on me, and that was the conservatives, which are called reactionaries, would hate society but love people. Communists or socialists, or whatever term he used, love society but hate people. And to my mind, around that time, that did seem to make a bit of sense, on the basis of examples I came across. Some examples I came across. But yeah. beyond that, further on from that, J.D. Salinger wrote, similar to the approach of the author Sue Townsend, who wrote the novel, which I think was quite popular, was pretty popular, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, which was adapted for TV. I think she wrote that, and that it was pretty humorous. And J.D., but it captured the cynical approach that many teenagers had back then in the 80s. And J.D. Salinger sort of had captured that and maybe influenced Sue Townsend. Sort of captured that cynical sense of the teenage years in quite a marked way. Quite an interesting book, and quite a culturally significant book, apparently. His other books, total shit. I seem to remember Frankie and Zooey and stuff like that. It was just trying to go for this really, I don't know, kooky, I think it's called, dynamic of a section of American society and literature. Maybe, but it wasn't really for me. I just found his book Catcher in the Rye quite significant. Apparently it was at the time, and it's seen that way. But the book that I really wish I'd read, and really, like, the minute I picked it up, I thought this is the type of humour I'm into. As a sort of development from Dickens, sort of which taps into my sense of humour, which Dickens sort of deviated from. Was Joseph Heller's Catch-22. The humour in that, even at an early stage, but I never got into. I never read it. I only read parts of it. But yeah, couldn't think of it. I may have something to eat, and then maybe that's the book. Maybe that's the book to read. Yeah, like I say, it's a book that really struck me as having a sense of humour that was pretty attuned to my own. So yeah, I don't know. I'll give it a go. But yeah, it also taps into that, like I say, the 20th century's links with generations who'd experienced war, sort of thing, and the influences that had on society, politics, and so on. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do.